Yep.
Yeah,
It's serious. It's a murder. Come on. All right, let's go.
I think murder's funny. Okay, I'm sorry, but yeah. Okay.
Hold on.
All right. You done yawning?
All right.
I wasn't yawning.
Too soon to get punchy, guys.
It's never too soon to get punchy. Probably not on it. All right. We ready?
Mm-hmm. Was that a
It's not a fart.
That's the first time I've heard Devin fart.
It wasn't.
Yeah, sure. Of course
Captured
it was.
on audio.
Yeah.
See, I can recreate it.
Yeah.
Not
Tonight's
just
episode, Mad Gasser Mattoon.
All right.
Mad Gasser of the studio.
Alrighty, let's do this thing.
Okay.
All right. It could. I think
What's
I'm.
this thing? The ice
Catapult?
thing. No.
Oh.
That you use to burn ants.
Oh, magnifying
Oh,
glass?
magnifying. Oh, yeah, that thing. The eye scope thing. I like that.
Did you just fart? Oh, is that your chair?
So trying to be quiet is my favorite thing. Because it never works. It's like a teenager sneaking in after hours. Yeah. Okay.
Mom, Dad, are you awake?
I didn't wake you up, did I? Okay.
Action!
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, actually, I'm sorry. This car doesn't somehow.
Acupuncture.
It just doesn't sit right. Which is really fun thing to happen from the rear ending.
Yup. Good time.
Or maybe I'm just getting old.
That's probably what it is.
The old bag.
If you say it again, I'll laugh like you said it the first time.
Just to prove to our listeners that your laugh is fake. Oh man.
Let's hear your best phony laugh, Devin.
No.
Oh, fine.
She does it all the time on this show.
Yeah.
She
It's
thinks
the
her
only
joke-
laugh you've ever heard.
I thought you liked my humor.
No, you were supposed to laugh.
Yeah.
Oh, try it again.
Yeah. I thought you loved my humor.
Ha!
Oh, you do? Yeah, cool.
That's what a genuine laugh sounds like, right?
Yeah, yeah. Oh, okay. You ready? In April of 2017, mere months ago...
2217.
2217?
What you said.
Okay. Okay. All right, let's do it one more time here.
Sorry.
Really? 2217, huh? Wow. Okay.
A mere 200 years into the future.
Yeah.
We'll all still be alive. Good work, buddy.
Houston, the litter box is clear.
Yeah, all right.
Okay, but maybe he's not the best seaman in the world.
Yeah.
Don't laugh. I knew you were gonna laugh.
What?
Now you're laughing.
Oh my God.
The word is,
going.
the word is, by the way, seaman.
Except Nazis. You can't say that.
That's kind of discriminatory, don't you think?
You can't say. Did I tell you guys about that? The Wolfenstein. I did. The Wolfenstein thing.
No.
Where it was like this Wolfenstein game that's been this series since the 80s, and every single time the tagline has been "Kill Nazis, kill the Nazis." And until this year, everyone was like, "Yep." And then this year, they were like, "Wolfenstein, kill the Nazis," and a bunch of like white supremacists were like, that's offensive. You can't say that." Like, what?
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry.
Okay, doke. So our story
So
takes...
did they change it?
No.
Just the Nazis.
Scum.
The Alienist. A-L-I-E-N-S.
A-L-I-E-N.
I had to zoom in. I couldn't read it.
He's unlike any other nutritional snake. Oh my god. Like any other nutritional snake. Snake.
Nutritional snake.
iFit Nourish is in like... Dear Lord.
Did you break it?
No.
You need the duct tape?
Nope. I need to put my...
You need to not have the phones out?
Okay.
Should I turn my ringer off? You guys see it?
You should not have a ringer on. I'm explaining all things in a strange manner today. This makes great audio. Joe leaving the room. Call, call, call. Joe returning to the room. Joe's squeaky house talks. Maybe that's what we should do as our special episodes, is the squeaks of this house.
Well, if we were going to do a haunted house episode, we've got a lot of sound effects right here.
We do.
We actually do.
All right, let's maybe that's enough.
You know,
let's go.
That's a good episode for some of our special content. Let's do a haunted house, Jim. Yeah, I know. Yeah.
News alert.
No, it'll be found footage. It'll be like the Blair Witch Project, found audio footage.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I'll think of something.
Okay.
All right, let's go. Ready?
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's a fun story. People get killed, you know? Hey.
Well.
Yeah.
Oh,
no! Wind down, Joe.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Okay, let's go back to it here.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. Okay.
That's okay. That's fine. You destroyed that rug, which has been in my family for so many years.
Really tied the room together. Okay, let's do it.
Yeah, okay.
Sorry.
Hang on.
Thank you, Devin. I feel like we're a team now.
Good job. All right. Let's sprit the corpse. Yeah.
Actually, that's a really good kind of segue.
Segue.
That's actually
that
really
funny little thing you ride around.
All right, I'm going to try it one way. Okay, now I'm going to try it another way.
I knew you were going to make that joke.
You were reading my mind. Or actually, maybe I pulled the joke out of your mind. I do that a lot. Yeah. All right, here we go.
I don't want to have Steve mouth.
Mm-hmm. It's the worst.
That's what I call it now.
I can't even stand my own mouth.
You see your cat, you catch your cat pooping on your bed, and you think to yourself, wow, I didn't have my camera, I didn't capture that wonderful image, and so you want to go back and stage it. And similarly, in war, you see something really awesome.
Can I ask a question?
You want to go back and do
We have
that
a
again?
lot of questions about that. Yeah. Maybe
I have a lot of
Let me do away with my
questions there.
dumb analogy. Okay, it's like this.
Maybe don't do the cat poop.
Yeah,
Yeah,
why don't you?
okay.
Okay, so start the whole
I'll start
thing.
Maybe
again.
it's fun.
Easy.
Hi, this is the Tax Crime Investigation Unit of IRS. The reason you are receiving this pre-recorded message is to notify you that IRS has issued an arrest warrant against you. Right now you and your physical property both are being monitored, and it's very important that I do hear back from you as soon as possible before we proceed further in any legal manner. My direct callback number is... Thank you.
This special episode of Thinking Sideways is not brought to you by your wife, who's trying to kill you. Instead, it's brought to you by TNT's new limited series, The Alienist. When a series of gruesome murders grips New York in 1896, Dr. Laszlo Kreisler and his team must investigate, analyze, and capture the killer. Inspired by The Alienist, this week we're going to delve into the death of Thomas Edwin Bartlett, who was discovered dead at 4 o'clock in the morning on January 1st, 1886, of apparent chloroform poisoning. The general consensus was that his wife, Adelaide Blanche Bartlett, was the one who administered the poison, but to be honest, we don't know for sure who did it. So that is our mystery. And just a quick little ears warning, there is going to be some talk about sex in this episode, so if you don't want the little ones here, or little ears hearing that, save it for later.
Oh, do we want to introduce ourselves?
We probably should, because that would be great, since I just gave away the story. Who are the players? Well, I am Steve.
I'm Devin.
And I'm Joe, and this is Thinking Sideways.
The podcast!
Hey!
Okay.
Good job. It's like we do that all the time.
It's like that, yeah.
We're enthusiastic, damn it.
So let's dive right into the story.
Yeah.
Give a little background.
Yeah.
On the players that we've got. So there's three main players in this story. First off, there is Edwin, and Edwin, the husband. He was a successful grocer.
And I think he actually owned several stores, right? Like a chain or something?
Right. Well,
yeah.
He was a grocer. I guess I meant that as in the business owner, not the guy who was behind the counter.
Checking.
Yeah.
He was a successful bag checker.
Bag
or
boy,
bagger.
Yeah. Bag boy, yeah.
Checker.
Yeah.
Either of the two. Sorry.
But their business was in London. He was 29 years old when he married Adelaide in 1875. At the time of their marriage, she was just 19 years old, and she had had a bit of a tragic past. Both of her parents had died by the time she was 11.
Wow.
She was taken in by a family, and they raised and educated her. And
Nice of them.
yeah, it was. And that plays into part of the marriage terms, or the dowry terms, because it was an arranged marriage. Not surprisingly, they weren't in love, which wasn't really a thing at the time, marrying for love.
Well,
not.
for some people. But
Yeah.
not most people.
Not all of them. But one of those stipulations of her dowry was that Edwin had to pay to complete her education, and he almost immediately sent her away to school for about 2 years. So happy romantic newlyweds. Go to school, honey. I'll see you later.
She actually came home on holidays for business.
Yeah, it wasn't as she was gone completely. But when they were together, they were reported to, have a happy relationship, though they didn't have much of a sexual relationship.
More of like a platonic relationship.
Yeah, platonic is the way you see it described a lot.
Although there is some disagreement on that.
Yeah, there is, and that's something that we're going to talk about in a bit. But one of the signs that points to the fact that it was not entirely platonic is the fact that Adelaide got pregnant and had a child in 1881, which would have been 6 years after their marriage.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, the child was stillborn, and she vowed never to get pregnant again. Apparently, it wasn't an easy pregnancy for her.
Well, yeah, if the child was stillborn.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a pretty good
yeah.
sign. But I mean, there's nothing to say that their relationship had an inherent sexual component. There is evidence, obviously she got pregnant. I would say that's more evidence that Edwin was like, you know what, I need an heir to give all this money to.
Maybe.
Or something like that.
Yeah.
More than,
They did it for practical reasons rather than reasons of pleasure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But also maybe pleasure,
Maybe.
who knows?
I don't know. I mean, some people said they only had sex once in their entire relationship when she got pregnant. But then I think it was their chambermaid said she thought that she believed that actually they only had unprotected sex once.
Yep.
Which was when she got pregnant.
Correct.
Yeah. So
Correct.
I think their relationship was not quite as abnormal as some people like to make
No,
it out to be.
and that's one of the things, as with all these older stories, you got to be careful of the accountings and the reporting. But let's continue on. So the couple lived in several different houses in London. But in October of 1885, they moved to the Pimlico area, which is in central London. They had been living in another part of the city, and what motivated them to move, I don't really know, and that's not really important to the story.
But, it's close to their place was close to the Thames. It's actually a stone's throw away, so maybe they liked it for the dead bodies. I don't know.
I doubt that was it. But what is important to note here is that before the move, actually since January of 1885, they had been going to the Wesleyan Chapel in Merton Abbey, which was about 8 miles or 13 kilometers away from their new home, the one that they had just moved into. And that's important because when they started attending that church, they met the Reverend George Dyson, and he and the couple became quick friends, and they would spend a lot of time together. And some accounts would say that he would minister to them individually, while others would say that he was hired to tutor Adelaide. And by tutored, I mean, well, I don't actually know what it means because there's a lot of conflicting accounts.
I mean, it sounds like she was interested in education and, being educated and learning stuff. I mean, if that was part of her dowry was that she was to continue her education, the only reason she could get married was if she were guaranteed that continuing education. If she was into that, I mean,
learning
her
about
husband would be
the religious history. Yeah, I mean, we don't know what was going on here in terms of what was taught or what actions were taken.
Well, according to the testimony of the Reverend himself, he said to I believe to Adelaide at some point that he felt that Edwin was actually sort of trying to push them together, meaning George Dyson and Adelaide. He felt that he was trying to push them,
you see that in a lot of places because, I mean, as we talked about, the resources or the sources on this say that Edwin himself apparently wasn't all that interested in sex, but he had this belief in the power of animal magnetism, which is a force sometimes referred to as mesmerism. It's kind of a life force that can be held by all animals and can be transferred to others with healing properties.
This is when that kind of stuff was going on.
It was popular at that time.
That was bigly.
And again, we don't know if that's true because there's only a couple of players who say that. It was not as if it was a widely known belief that he did this, so it's hard to say. But what we do know about the pair is, in terms of who liked what, we do know that apparently she had more of an appetite for intercourse than he did, because supposedly, according to Edwin's father, she took up almost immediately with Edwin's brother after their marriage and had an affair with him.
Although Edwin's father really didn't like her either.
And so he was throwing mud all over that lady.
Yeah, there was some strong disagreement over that particular issue.
But there's also information that says that she was having intercourse with George Dyson. And the reason that it's said that way is that Adelaide and Dyson were, according to the maid, found multiple times on the floor in positions, quote-unquote, unusual for pupil and teacher.
I love that. That's such a great way to say that.
He was actually also supposed to tutor her in judo.
And
Greek wrestling.
I thought you'd say
they were just picking up paper clips.
Yeah. But it's not entirely clear if Edwin was, how much of this he was aware of or on board with. And as we said, his father didn't like her, and so he said a lot of bad things, and she made some strange statements about her husband. So his letters to the Reverend seem to indicate that he was okay with it and on board, but I'm not 100% positive.
Well, I mean, Edwin, towards the end of his life, at least the last couple of years of his life, his health was really bad.
Yeah, it was waning, yeah.
He expected to die and to leave his wife, a widow, and, he apparently thought that Dyson would have been the ideal husband for the future.
That's what he seems to think,
yeah. Which was noble of him.
Yeah. So we're almost, at this point, we're almost up to talking about Edwin's death, but there's just a little more that we need to share about him. Joe, you were just talking about his health, and it had been poor for years ahead of time. He had been diagnosed by his regular medical doctor as having subacute gastritis, which is an irritation of the lining of your stomach. And subacute means that it came on rather rapidly. He also supposedly had issues with his gums and his teeth, left him in a lot of pain and discomfort, at least for the latter part of the year of 1885. And part of the reason for that is his choice of dentist, because he picks a complete and utter nut job for a dentist.
Well, they didn't have the internet. You couldn't look up reviews on your dentist.
No, I'm afraid. I wish that he could have, because this guy believed that the best way to prepare Edwin's mouth for receiving dentures was to, I kid you not, saw his teeth off at the gum line.
It's like, leaving the health thing aside, I would so much rather have a tooth pulled than have it sawed off.
Oh, yeah.
Really?
I'd rather have it broke out. And besides leaving the health
considerations aside, you would think that having rotting stumps in your jaw would not be a healthy thing.
Oh God, no! Exposed nerve? No, this whole thing sounds bad.
Yeah.
And think about it. It was a hand saw, not a power saw.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The other problem that Edwin had was apparently it was determined that he was suffering from mercury poisoning. And when his regular, medical doctor asked him, what's going on, he was taking some pills, and he said, well, why are you taking them? And he admitted that he didn't know they had been prescribed to him, and so he was taking them.
Well,
so he was getting mercury poisoning, which is not good.
Well, also back in the old, mercury was used in amalgam in dentistry for fillings for a long, long time. But also, he actually might have been other things. Apparently, Edwin strongly believed that he had worms.
Yeah, that's right.
He was totally convinced he had worms, and worms, and mercury actually in those days was considered a good treatment for parasites.
Mm-hmm.
So he might have actually been taking mercury.
Mercury kills everything.
Oh, yeah,
including you.
Including you, yeah. By the way, not recommending this, even if you think you have worms. But and apparently he didn't have much of a real doctor. Exactly. His wife kind of was his nurse, and he didn't exactly have a
he would go see his regular doctor once in a great while, and that was it.
That was about it. So, I'm not surprised he had... people took mercury for syphilis and, like I said, parasites and a bunch of other stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It was kind of the fix-all.
Not be suffering from those things anymore because you will be dead.
Yes.
Right?
You're right.
I don't know. I guess there's something to be said for having that unquestioning kind of demeanor of, well, maybe this is just, I've never been to another dentist. Maybe this is how things are done. But you would think
after the first one.
I was going to say, you would think
opinion.
the first time somebody started sawing your teeth, you would be like, just kidding. This can't be right.
Just the whole idea of, it seems kind of awkward to get a saw into somebody's mouth also.
Well, I'm sure it was a little dental saw.
Well, yeah, I'm sure, but still, it just sounds like an uncomfortable
Sharp
time.
as a butter knife.
And and of course, not much in the way of anesthetic.
Let's move away from the tooth sawing, please.
Yeah.
So all of this is going on, and Edwin is getting sicker and sicker. And then all of a sudden, in the month of December 1885, his health seems to rally. And the couple are seen around town, and they're happy, and he goes to his regular doctor, apparently, who says, oh yeah, I know you're doing much better, good prognosis. And then on New Year's Eve, Edwin went to see his quack dentist again, for what reasons I don't know, and then came home, and he and his wife, they spent the evening together in their house. She then woke up at about 4 o'clock in the morning. He'd fall asleep in a cot, and she was sitting near the cot and had fall asleep next to it.
Yeah, it was like in the front room or something
near the fireplace.
Near the fireplace,
So he could keep warm. And then when she woke up, she noticed something wasn't right. And so she said that she tried to pour brandy down his throat in an attempt to rouse him. And then when that didn't work, she called for help, and people came, and they figured out very quickly that he had passed.
Which was a strange thing to do, because apparently, so their landlord who lived upstairs, she went and got him first. This is at 4 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
And said
I thought she sent the maid.
Maybe she sent the maid up, but whatever it was, he came right down, and he said, well, he touched the body. The body was just cold as hell. It was cold, basically.
Yeah, stone cold.
And so it's like, okay, I've got this body here that's laying there stone cold, and the eyes are wide open and staring at nothing, and I'm going to pour brandy down his throat. That doesn't make a lot of sense.
No, it's, but
In her defense, I mean, yes, bodies get really cold. We had panic. She was young, but also...
No, she was in her 30s at this point.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
She's 14 years. She married at 19, so she's a 30-some-year-old lady.
Scratch that from the record. Anyway, one thing I will say is that I have very poor circulation as a rule. My blood pressure is really, really low, and there are times where my hands and feet are like ice cubes.
So we shouldn't just bury you. We should probably look
check
for a
for a
heartbeat
pulse
at
or
least
something.
first.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And my core stays warm, but my limbs get really, really cold, and I'm convinced that if I did pass in the night and my fiance was like just went to touch my hand and just felt it cold, he would just think, wow, she's like passed out or asleep or something.
Yeah.
And he's smarter, obviously.
Might be a week before he'd notice.
Right. Yeah. He would just be like, wow, she's still asleep, must have been really tired. It's so weird. No, I mean
it's been 3 days.
Yeah, no, I mean obviously he's smart enough, he would check for a pulse, blah blah blah, but I'm just saying, if you're kind of in a panic and he was in bad health already, and I suspect his circulation wasn't particularly great, if all she did was kind of touch his hand, and then she thought, oh, I'll give him some brandy, that usually warms him up and wakes him up, and then that didn't, and then she was like, oh, ha, that's why he's so cold. Okay. Dang it.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
So, obviously, he's found dead. I think it was about 10 or 11 o'clock that morning, Edwin's father comes over, because he was in town at the time, and as soon as he heard about it, he came over, and he, like we talked about, he was suspicious of Adelaide, and he didn't like her, and so the first thing he said he did was go and smell his son's mouth, for signs of poisoning, and he reportedly smelled something that was sweet and, made a big ruckus saying, I want an official examination done of the body. And the doctors, when they did the examination, there was no obvious cause of death until they opened Edwin's stomach, at which point they found a 1/16 of an ounce of chloroform in it. Now, presumably there had been more chloroform in his stomach before that, but because it evaporates so easily, it was probably escaping out of his mouth.
It also gets absorbed into your body, too.
To a degree, yeah. I mean, it will.
Yeah.
And to be clear, chloroform is not something that naturally occurs in your stomach.
No, absolutely not.
Yeah.
No, absolutely not.
It, like mercury, will kill you.
Correct.
Yep.
And the cause of death at this point was pretty obvious, but how the chloroform got into him was not, because the thing is, chloroform will burn skin after it is left in contact with it for a second or two. Oh, Edwin's mouth and throat didn't show any signs of burning. His tongue was kind of bleach white, which is an after effect and is a known effect, but there was no burning, so our mystery is, how did it get there? And who did it? To finish the story before we get into all the theory section, Adelaide and George Dyson, they're charged with Edwin's death. Dyson is almost immediately, at the trial, is immediately released from the charges in exchange for testifying against Adelaide. What he tells the court is that he had gotten her 4 ounces of chloroform that she said she was going to use on Edwin to help him sleep because he had been in so much pain. Because if you know anything about chloroform, people used to put it on a rag and you put it over your mouth and you inhale that stuff and it'll knock you out. It's one of your early knockout gases.
It's used in the movies all the time.
It really does. She did the story about why that happened. We'll get into some of that a little later on, but the long and the short of it is that they went to trial. She was put on trial. He testifies against her. The jury cannot make it stick, the prosecution can't make it stick, and therefore the jury cannot come back with a charge of guilty. So they say, and this is the foreman says, of the jury says, actually, Joe, here, you read this.
All right, here we go. Quote, although we think grave suspicion is attached to the prisoner, we do not think there is sufficient evidence to show how or by whom the chloroform was administered, unquote.
Yep.
Dun, dun, dun.
Exactly. So we don't know how it got there.
There was a lot of puzzlement over that, actually. I don't know if you read that quote by Sir James Pettit.
Oh, yeah, that's a great quote.
It is a great quote.
You want to share that?
Yeah, he said after the trial was over, she'd been she had been found not guilty, and so she couldn't be retried. And so he supposedly said, quote, "She should tell us in the interest of science how she did it," unquote.
Since she can't be tried for it again, she should just admit to it.
Yeah, obviously he was not convinced of her innocence.
Yeah, no, obviously not. Well, it's almost theory time, but before we go to theories, let's take a quick break. We hope you're enjoying the mystery of the death of Thomas Edwin Bartlett. Here's a sneak peek into The Alienist, premiering January 22nd.
You think I'm crazy?
A monster unleashed.
My God.
A man obsessed.
He's watching us.
A city in fear. Mondays on TNT, the hunt for pure evil begins.
Cold-blooded killers